There was something very interesting happening at Manchester United right now, and it could have a major impact on the team before the new season even begins. Manchester United have apparently made their preference clear when it comes to the long-term solution at left back, and surprisingly, it is Newcastle United's Lewis Hall, not Arsenal's Myles Lewis-Skelly. But there is a problem. Newcastle do not want to sell, and United could be facing a huge asking price. So why are Manchester United still pushing towards Hall? And more importantly, what does this tell us about Michael Carrick's plans for the new season? Because when you put all the latest information together, there is genuine optimism around Carrick's Manchester United. Before we get into the details, if you want every Manchester United update delivered the moment it breaks, this is the channel for that. This is Final Whiz, and if you're new here, subscribe now, hit like on this video, and drop a comment telling us whether you back the Lewis Hall move. It genuinely helps this channel grow, and it means you won't miss what comes next in this story. Let's start with Lewis Hall. United reportedly see Hall as their preferred long-term replacement for Luke Shaw. That is a very significant detail. Myles Lewis-Skelly is another player who has been linked with the position, but United apparently favor Hall. And there is another important part to this story. Hall himself is reportedly keen on the move. The issue is Newcastle. They have already shown reluctance to sell, and with the player under contract, United may have to pay a premium if they want to get the deal done. That could make this one of the more difficult deals of the summer. Clubs holding out on a player under contract typically push the asking price well above the player's current market value, and Newcastle's stance so far suggests they see Hall as a long-term part of their own squad rather than a player they are willing to let go easily. But United clearly appear to be thinking beyond just next season. They want a long-term left back who can fit into the next phase of the project rather than a short-term fix for the position Luke Shaw has occupied for close to a decade. This is worth pausing on. Manchester United have used multiple options at left back over recent seasons, and Luke Shaw's recurring injury issues have meant the club has often had to rely on makeshift solutions in that position. A confirmed long-term preference, even before a deal is agreed, tells us the club has moved past short-term thinking on this specific role. So why does this matter beyond just one position? Because it connects to something bigger happening behind the scenes at Carrington. That brings us directly to Michael Carrick, because something else caught the attention of United fans today. Carrick was seen giving Youri Tielemans tactical advice during training. It might look like a simple training ground moment, but these details matter. Tielemans is now becoming an important part of Carrick's midfield options, and the coaching staff are clearly working with him on exactly how they want him to operate. A one-on-one coaching moment involving a specific tactical instruction rather than general encouragement signals that the coaching staff already have a defined role in mind for the player within the system. And according to Noussair Mazraoui, there is a very clear identity developing under Carrick. Mazraoui said that Carrick and his staff have clear ideas, not just this season, but dating back to last season. He explained that the team are trying to build on what they did previously, while improving their intensity, possession, and bravery on the ball. This is a notable statement coming directly from a player inside the squad, because it confirms the tactical framework has been consistent across two separate pre-season periods, rather than being rebuilt from scratch each summer. And perhaps the most important part was what he said next. United are also working on the things they did not do well last season. That is exactly what you want to hear during pre-season. Not simply celebrating the positives, but identifying weaknesses and actively trying to fix them. A club that only reinforces what already worked tends to plateau, while a club that specifically targets last season's shortcomings gives itself a genuine chance of improving its final league position. And there is another reason United fans should be excited: the academy. Mazraoui specifically praised Shea Lacey. He also highlighted Jack and Tyler Fletcher, and then he mentioned JJ Gabriel, a player who is only 15. Mazraoui described the emergence of these young players as something that is not usual, and said it is good to see a club as big as Manchester United continuing to bring academy players through. That is a huge part of United's identity, and if Michael Carrick can combine those academy prospects with experienced players and the new signings, United could have something very interesting developing. Manchester United's academy historically produced generational talent, and a continued pipeline of first-team ready youngsters gives the club depth without relying entirely on the transfer market to fill every gap in the squad. But the biggest statement of the day may have come from Steve Holland, explained that pre-season is completely different from the actual Premier League season. During the season, every decision is ultimately about winning the game, but right now the coaching staff are thinking about something different: minutes, fitness, protection, intensity, and making sure players reach the right level before the competitive season begins. That tells us why you might see different combinations and players getting unusual amounts of minutes during these friendlies. It's all part of the preparation. Coaching staff typically use pre-season fixtures to assess fitness levels across the full squad, test tactical variations without the pressure of league points, and manage returning players back into full training gradually to avoid injury setbacks once the competitive season begins. But Steve Holland went even further. He admitted that while everyone is naturally optimistic at the beginning of a season, there is genuine optimism around Manchester United, and the reason? The way the team performed last season, combined with the additions made to the squad. The ambition is also clear. Manchester United want to be competitive in every competition they enter, and yes, Champions League football is back. Holland acknowledged that this is where Manchester United should be. The club has a long history in European competition, and a return to the Champions League after missing out puts United back among the clubs competing on football's biggest stage. But he also admitted the obvious truth: the Premier League is incredibly competitive, so nobody inside the club is pretending this will be easy. The gap between the top clubs and the rest of the league has narrowed in recent seasons, meaning consistency across multiple competitions will be essential rather than optional. And that's perhaps the most encouraging part. There is optimism, but there is also realism. Carrick and his staff know there is still work to do. The squad still needs strengthening. The left-back position remains a major talking point. Lewis Hall could be the preferred solution, but Newcastle's stance and the asking price could make that deal extremely difficult. At the same time, players like Tielemans are being integrated into Carrick's tactical system. Young academy players are making an impression, experienced players are helping them, and the coaching staff are trying to build on the positives while fixing last season's weaknesses. This combination of experienced signings, developing academy talent, and a defined tactical identity is precisely the formula clubs look for when building towards sustained competitiveness, rather than a single strong season. Even Michael Carrick being reunited with Rio Ferdinand in Dublin added another interesting moment around the club today. The two worked together at United during Carrick's playing career, and Ferdinand has remained a visible voice around the club since retiring, making any public reunion between them a point of interest for supporters following the pre-season schedule. But the bigger picture is what matters. Manchester United are not simply preparing for another season, they are trying to establish an identity, more intensity, more possession, more bravery, better decision-making, and a squad capable of competing across multiple competitions. Building an identity of this kind typically takes more than a single transfer window, which is why the club's current transfer targets, including Lewis Hall, are being assessed on long-term fit rather than immediate need alone. The Lewis Hall situation could become a major story before the window closes, because if Newcastle continue to resist and the asking price keeps rising, United will have to decide just how strongly they believe Hall is the right long-term answer. And if they eventually get the deal done, it could be one of the clearest signs yet that Carrick and United are planning for the future, not just trying to patch up the present. Transfer negotiations involving a reluctant selling club often extend deep into the window, and the final outcome will depend on how much United are willing to pay against how firmly Newcastle holds their position. For now, though, the message coming out of the camp is surprisingly positive. The players are buying into the ideas, the youngsters are getting opportunities, the new additions are being integrated, and the coaching staff genuinely believe this Manchester United team can compete. Now comes the difficult part, turning pre-season optimism into Premier League results. Because once the real games begin, nobody will care how good the training sessions looked. Every decision will be about winning. And that's when we'll finally discover whether Michael Carrick's Manchester United project is ready to take the next step. Pre-season form and friendly results rarely translate directly into league performance, which is why the opening weeks of the competitive season will be the real test of everything discussed here: the identity, the academy integration, and whether the Lewis Hall deal is completed at all. If this breakdown gave you a clearer picture of where Manchester United stand right now, that's exactly what Final Whiz is here for. Subscribe so you're notified the moment the Lewis Hall situation develops. Hit like if you're feeling optimistic about Carrick's project, and tell us in the comments, do you trust Lewis Hall as United's long-term left back? We'll be tracking